Welcome to Hanson Professional Services Discussions with Energy Leaders. I'm Bill Bradford. I'm a Senior Vice President with Hanson, and I'm the principal leading our energy sustainability and resiliency initiatives. Through the work we do, we are very fortunate to meet and work with some of the foremost leaders in the fields of energy, sustainability, and resiliency on a daily basis. Today, I'm very fortunate to be able to introduce you to Dr. Chris Gray, Chief Technology Officer at Renew Communities. Chris is a registered engineer with a BS degree in mechanical engineering, an MS degree in mechanical engineering, and a Doctor of Philosophy degree in civil engineering. Chris also has a mechanical contractor license. He is very active in ASHRAE and serves on the board of directors and as a regional chair for ASHRAE. He's also an official member of the Forbes Technology Council. In 2022, Chris was named to the Environment plus Energy Leader 50 list, which annually recognizes the top 50 sustainability and energy management professionals working in their space. Chris has graciously accepted our invitation for this discussion, and welcome, Chris.
Thank you so much, Bill. Thank you for having me, and thank you to Hanson for allowing me the pleasure.
Chris, we've had the opportunity to work with you in Renew, and in looking at the website, it says Renew is leading the transition to a carbon-neutral built environment. Can you provide an overview of Renew and what you and your company do?
Yeah, of course. So Renew Communities is leading the transition to a carbon neutral future, right? What does that mean? Renew Communities is focused on the built environment. We're focused on real estate. We are an internal energy services subsidiary of our parent company, Taurus Investment Holdings. We act as an internal energy advisor, internal energy services company to provide decarbonization retrofit solutions to existing buildings that Taurus acquires. And our job is to work with the asset managers and the acquisition teams within the real estate firm to hand in hand deliver a decarbonization retrofit solution for that asset. So as the real estate team is going through and evaluating all of the different components of the real estate deal, the energy team is running right in parallel side by side to evaluate the energy performance of the property and really develop a scope of energy efficiency and renewable energy solutions that we can implement as soon as we acquire a property. So we are an internal partner of Taurus, and we focus on multifamily retrofits, office, as well as industrial warehouse retrofits. So each of the different asset types that Taurus acquires, Renew is right there working hand in hand with the real estate team to develop that decarbonization solution. And it doesn't mean that we hit net zero on all of our properties. It doesn't mean that by any means, but it means that we give an initial energy plan to the building to create very significant decarbonization right when we acquire a building. And then we stay engaged with that building over the lifespan that Taurus owns it to continue to deliver that updated energy plan with the goal of having that building being part of the solution for a carbon neutral energy future by 2050.
Last year, my wife and I were watching TV one night, and I looked up, and it was on CNBC. And there was senior climate and real estate correspondent Diana Olick discussing decarbonization with my friend Chris Gray in the real estate industry. I was very impressed, and my wife was impressed that I knew a TV celebrity. But I was curious, how did that affect what you're doing, and did that notoriety affect the business you have and get more people interested in decarbonization?
We have our internal marketing and PR person, Tiffany Wynn, who creates these connections all around the industry and really helps us spread the word of what we're doing with decarbonization, sustainability, and energy conservation across all Taurus platforms. So she had formed this relationship with Diana Olick and told Diana about the really great energy project we were doing at our Southwinds property in Fall River, Massachusetts. And Diana was immediately interested. Okay. She was immediately really interested in the depth and the breadth of what we were doing. We weren't just going in and installing energy efficient lighting. We weren't just installing efficient plumbing fixtures. We were looking at the entire property scope and implementing envelope upgrades and mechanical system upgrades and renewable energies and water saving strategies all on the same property. And so Diana asked if we could make a trip to the property so that she could send a film crew and really do a full expose on the property. We got the request 1 week. The next week, we were there with the film crew doing the overview of the property. And when it aired, it was somewhat by surprise because of how quickly it aired. It was less than a week later. It was after the filming that it was on the air. And very similar to your text, I started getting texts from people in the energy industry all across the country. Now, going forward after that, we have had a tremendous amount of interest in that project because it was highlighted by Diana. But it has opened up an opportunity for us to use that clip as an example of what other real estate owners should be doing. Right? Because if we can do it, any real estate owner can do it. And so we use that to show, look, this is the level of awareness that we need to create in the built environment to really address that 40% of carbon emissions that come from buildings in the United States. We need to get this awareness out there to show what can be done with all properties.
You know, I've always seen you and Renew as a just tremendous leader in this field. What you're doing is fantastic. But I was curious, do you see other regional, national, or international real estate investment companies who are trying to emulate what you, Renew, and TARS are trying to accomplish?
We do not see a tremendous amount of real estate owners doing exactly what Renew does. But we see more and more companies being focused on the type of projects that we do. And we are seeing the institutional investors, meaning the large pension funds and insurance companies, requiring the type of energy plans that Renew develops in their acquisitions of properties. So we don't see a lot of firms that are doing this in-house, but it is emerging. And when you have major players in the industry focusing on decarbonizing real estate, it becomes mainstream, right? It becomes the norm. And that's really what we need. For example, we have worked with Hanson to evaluate one of our multifamily properties in Florida, as well as some of our commercial office buildings in Florida.
Chris, along that same line, we had the opportunity to work with you on the Canopy apartment complex here in Orlando, just north of the airport. And I know that was one you were looking at making one of your flagship properties.
Absolutely.
How is that going? And is it working the way you had hoped it would?
So we are about 95% complete on that project, and we actually undertook most of the scope that we conceptually planned in the beginning. At Canopy Apartment Villas, when we worked with Hanson, we looked at a full outside-in approach to a potential retrofit, and we looked at each and every option. We ran the economic evaluation of each option and really had to choose where's the money best spent, because we don't have an unlimited budget. We have to make sure that our retrofits are at least cost neutral or accretive to the overall deal and make sure that everybody's benefiting. So at Canopy, we ended up implementing new HVAC systems, brand new heat pumps in every apartment. It is 296 apartment units across the property in a garden style layout. And we replaced all of the HVAC systems with new high efficiency heat pumps. We put in heat pump water heaters in every unit. We increased the attic insulation in every unit, sealed the ductwork, put in new thermostats, programmable thermostats for every unit. And then we took 20% of the units on the property and put in solar PV to offset the expected annual energy consumption of those 20% of the units. So we have a certain portion, 1/5 of the units on the property that should be net zero on an average annual basis. And that's important because we want to make sure that residents have the option, right? They have the option to choose a net zero apartment unit. And we utilize some pretty groundbreaking technologies there on that project. But the final step that we have to do is implement the lighting solution. So LED retrofits throughout the property. And at Canopy, we replaced all of the toilets to go with a low flow toilet. And that was part of our evaluation as well through Hanson, was looking at what can we do holistically, not just with energy, but also water, which is increasingly important across the U.S.
As I recall, you also had an unusual, or maybe just a very forward-thinking metering solution for the PV panels that a lot of people had not heard of. Would you mind mentioning something about that?
Yeah, so at Canopy, with the solar strategy, we took a very unique approach to ensure that we were able to deploy solar in the most cost-effective manner. So typically when you build a solar array, you would dedicate a certain number of panels to a particular meter, and you would interconnect those panels directly behind that one meter. On a multifamily project, that becomes difficult because you've got a limited amount of roof space that's shared amongst multiple units. Okay. And our goal was to create an opportunity to have net zero energy-based apartment units. So we really did not have the roof space to build, say, 4 kW of solar behind each and every meter with its own inverter and its own interconnection behind each meter. So we were introduced to a technology out of Australia called the SolShare, and it's by a company called Allume. And they had a unique solar distribution technology that would allow you to build one solar array with one set of inverters and tie it into one distribution box, and then evenly allocate that solar to multiple meters.
Okay.
And so that's what we were able to use at Canopy to deliver an equivalent amount of solar to multiple tenants with just one array.
Chris, thank you so very much. And for those of you who are listening to this, we hope you'll tune back in for the second part of this conversation with Dr. Chris Gray of Renew Communities. I hope you'll find it as fascinating as the first part. Thank you.